Hello and welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. For anyone that's not tuned in before, my name's Nick and I don't always wear this bright pink t-shirt, but it does have our logo on. How exciting. If you're just listening, I'm wearing a bright pink t-shirt with our logo on. Today I've got a really awesome special guest. We're continuing this series of talking to small solo entrepreneurs. They're one-person businesses with a few other people helping. Is the thing. And all of them have made their money and made their name through TikTok, Instagram, and other social platforms. So some really, really good insights, certainly for some of you bigger businesses that are like, we should be posting on TikTok. TikTok, everybody's making millions. No, they're not, but some people are doing it really successfully. So we're talking to them to get you guys some advice. As always, on this piece of paper here, I have the most incredible list of things we covered. Just before I read out my list of things for this week's episode, please check out the Growth Hub, www.podcast.com, and click the button for Growth Hub. Join our community. Our community is amazing and everybody is chatting away, and we've launched a new platform, which is super exciting. I'm actually recording this before we launch the platform as well. So I'm putting pressure on myself, giving myself a deadline to make sure that the new platform is out before this episode goes out, which I'm sure we can achieve. We'd love to meet you. It's completely free to join. There's tons of other brands in there. There are no agencies or anything apart from myself. But it's an opportunity and forum for you guys to talk about some of your challenges, discuss things going on. And we're also bringing guests to round table sessions as well. So please go and get involved. If you haven't already, sign up to our email list as well. I don't often talk about email, but do go to www.podcast.com, sign up to our newsletter. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. Anyway, these have been becoming quite popular. I'm getting quite a few messages and DMs and other stuff across our channel saying, Nick, I love your intro list. Can we see a version of Naked Selfie Man, who was one of the customers of my guest George from Snaffling Pig a few weeks ago? No, you can't. I don't want to see it either. But these are becoming more and more funny. Today we've got nothing quite as funny as that. But my guest, she did mention that. Brianca is the lady I interviewed, and she did mention it before we hit record anyway and laughed. So she said she's going to make sure she doesn't mention any of it. So I made a point of mentioning it in this. Anyway, I've spoken far too much about this guy. Anyway, we spoke about bath bombs, giving into customer demands versus what you want to do, showing how it's made videos, how you can use cat videos to sell products on TikTok and Instagram. Process videos, again, a bit kind of like how it's made, but actually how things are done, how you work as a business, how to bring across a good value of product to customer. So much more than just going the features and functions of this product and the price, bringing real value to it through social media. How she went viral painting her ceiling in her house. How she sets her pricing. Instagram being bigger than TikTok. It's not something you hear every day. I was quite shocked. She shared some really good points on it though, so make sure you stay tuned in for that. Balancing being creative with all of the back office stuff like managing tax and systems and replying to customers, etc., etc., etc. Once she gets to 1 million views, she starts to do something different in how she manages the comments on videos as well. And also, I asked her right at the end, how are you evolving to scale up what you're doing at the moment? And what she said was quite the opposite of what I was expecting. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoy today's episode. So, Brianca, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Nick?
Yes, very well, thank you. Very, very well. It is officially turning into winter here in the UK. I don't know how cold it is for you where you're based.
It's getting colder, but it's actually taking a lot longer than I thought it would, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, when they said it was going to be global warming, I've been quite surprised how cold it's been getting, certainly in the Northern Hemisphere. But yeah,
It's
as you
just
say,
weather changing
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, absolutely. And there's certainly plenty of weather disasters that have been going on the last few weeks and months. So yeah,
Yes.
we're counting ourselves lucky where we're based at the moment. And yeah,
Mhm.
thoughts and prayers going out to those guys. But
Yeah.
anyway, we're going to talk about Shopify and talk about your business. So why don't you give a little background to yourself, what business you run, and how you got into it in the first place?
So my business is called Bellis Botanicals. It actually started as a bath bomb business, which I'll go into a little bit later. But I make nature-inspired polymer clay and resin earrings. Polymer clay isn't like the usual clay you would work with or you would think of like with ceramics. It's actually a plastic-based clay with plasticizers in it, which makes it soft. And then once it is baked, it's cured, and that's when it becomes a solid form. So I make a lot of miniatures. I like making clay canes, so like butterfly designs that you kind of like slice. Have you ever seen those candies that have the design all the way through?
Yes, I have. Or
You
where you
know,
get
like
like
watch those
cakes.
fun videos. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
and you
that with
chop
the
into
clay.
them. Amazing.
So I do a
Yeah.
lot of that too. Like I made these cherries, if you're watching the
Nice.
video.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started in April 2022, and it's just kind of turned into this whole handmade business mixed with being a content creator. So doing a lot of partnerships with brands now to kind of supplement my income.
Amazing, amazing. And I'm going to ask you a massive question. I don't normally dive in this deep this quickly, but how on earth do you take something that you love doing, something you're passionate about, especially something creative, and actually start paying bills with it? Like, how does it become a business? How do you start generating some revenue from that? Or how did you do it in your story?
It's very hard, especially with all the additional taxes when you're self-employed and all the fees and material costs. And I did not make any profit for the first year that I started. In fact, I went into debt, but at that point I was so determined to make it work. So it wasn't about until a year in, and that was only because I was doing well on social media, which then marketed what I was making really well.
Amazing, amazing, and I can certainly relate to that. I clocked up a few credit card debts and overdrafts and stuff when I was starting my business, and I remember my mum sort of saying to me like, "We'll pay all this off and get you home, and you know you don't have to pay rent anymore and everything else, but just give it one more go." And I don't know if it was the same for you, but in that state of desperation, it was almost. I actually think, if I'm brutally honest, I think it was my pride that pushed me through. It was like just the thought of failure. I was like, "No, I'm not done with this." And it was like just do anything I had to get revenue. I don't know if you hit a sort of similar place, and then something you never forget. You know, you kind of continue riding that adrenaline almost indefinitely.
Yeah, my mom was actually very, she questioned what I was doing as well, which was is funny,
Okay.
but they're really looking
Yeah,
out
yeah,
for you all the time.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I didn't ever think I was going to be selling jewelry in the first place. And so the fact that I realized I could make it a business and I could possibly make a living off of it really kind of set a fire under my butt.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think when you've got a bill to pay and you're like, I've got no money, and it's like, but I do have products, like I just need to ship them. Suddenly, you find the motivation to be incredibly creative and almost go, do you know what? I don't know if you've had this. It'd be interesting to find out kind of how you built your brand and things. But did you find it was almost I almost don't care what I'm making, how it looks. I just need to sell some stuff, which actually is a really healthy place from a business perspective to be in. Of I just need to make things that people want. Did you find that was part of your branding journey, or actually did you go, actually there are some key principles that I'm not willing to negotiate on here?
I definitely wasn't willing to negotiate a lot of it since a lot of it or all of it is handmade. So I would be putting hours of my time into making it with my own hands. And making something I don't want to make is just kind of awful. But at the same time, I want to listen to what your customers want. And so I do, and still now to this day, ask them what they really want to see me make and then kind of put my own twist on it. So I still enjoy it and it's still something they really want.
Yeah, and I really like that then, because you're kind of mixing up both worlds. Like the customer's got a need, or let's be more as more as like a want, as opposed to it just being a need. But they've got a want and a desire, and I think you putting your own spin. I think it's a bit like I mean, Henry Ford famously said, "You can have whatever color you want, but it's black." You know, like we know what you want. We're the car manufacturer. We're the experts here. But actually, it's got to start from something you kind of want, and then that's what marketing and sales is. Is we bring you to actually what we want to sell, and it becomes a win-win, and you buy it at the end of that. But yeah, I mean, do you find you still get to put an enormous amount of your own creativity into it, or do you find sometimes you do get almost like a brief, or customers are all saying we really want this, and you're like, all right, fine, I'll give in to the demands and make that product if people say they want it.
I definitely give in to demands a lot, especially if it's something I've made in the past. And a lot of people have been asking about it coming back for like a year. Like with the cherry earrings that I'm wearing right now, they've been like one of the most popular things I've made. So, yeah, I give in and I still enjoy it, but there's definitely times when I'm working on something and it does feel more like a job in that sense. Like it's a little harder to get through it. But for the most part, I make what I want inspired by what everyone else that follows along with what I make wants.
That's cool. That's cool. And I
Mhm.
guess if you just did exactly what they asked for, there'd be no point in them asking you in the first place, because make it themselves or just order it from a factory somewhere, rather than having that personal touch and also that connection with you. And how powerful would you say that connection is, actually them being able to engage with the individual creative person actually making the product? You know, how powerful is that for your business?
I think it's so powerful. I mean, because then they get to feel kind of like they're part of it as well, because they are. And I have so many repeat customers, like people who order from every single collection drop that I do on my website. And some of these people I'm in contact with. So we'll just like keep up with each other through DMs or emails. So yeah, there's such a strong connection. I think it's very important, especially for art. Like you are buying this art because you love it, but also because you probably enjoy the artist behind it.
Yeah. And I think the story's as important as the end product,
Yeah.
isn't it? And that's, I think when I was younger and went to art galleries or looked at stuff that people have made, just looking at it, I'd be like, there's nothing particularly special about that. Or it's kind of creative, but a machine could make that. And it's always the story that really brings it to life. It's the like, actually, this person was going through this in their life, and this was their way of like dealing with it, was actually creating something or making something. And that's that's one of a billion examples of a story where actually I think it's really, really powerful. So I guess another potentially quite tough question, but something that you must be dealing with regularly is how do you bring that story to life when it's just there's only so many pixels on a screen that you can control? How do you actually bring that story to life to people so they buy into you, buy into the product, buy into your business?
I think it's definitely a combination of what I put in my captions and posts, or I'll do certain videos that have voiceovers that kind of give like a little background behind like everything that I put into this, all the thoughts I put into it, how many different drafts I went through for it. And then I also interact with people on my story. So it's just like finding so many different ways to interact with people and let them know what I'm making and how I got to this. Yeah.
Nice. And it's such a powerful age to be alive, I think, to be able to just like hit record and
Mm-hmm.
within a few minutes actually have something. In the same way we're recording this now, like we suddenly got something that to some people is really interesting and to others is so powerful actually of going, do you know what, that's it. I'm going to build a business out of the thing that I've been passionate about before and listening to your story. But it doesn't kind of stop there, does it? You guys, well, you've got 500,000 followers, I think, across social at the moment. That, given that you've only been running 2.5 years, just say April 22, 2.5 years until now, how have you grown such an audience in such a short space of time?
Okay. So definitely the main answer is process videos. Have you heard of the show How It's Made, actually?
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
I loved that show so much.
Watching like milk bottles being filled up in a factory, and you're like,
Yeah.
that's how they
But
get
then
milk from a cow to a bottle to my house. That
right.
makes sense.
And I don't think a lot of
Yeah,
people realize how much time goes behind just like basic things, basic everyday things. But also everyone's so interested in it too, I think.
yeah,
At least I am.
yeah. I am.
Um, yeah. So I looked at creators that were similar to me or artists that were similar to me and basically took their video style and made it into my own with my own creations. And I also started a TikTok account for our cats. We have 3 cats.
Hey, nice. Yeah.
And it did really well. And that's when I was like, oh, I could actually maybe do an online business. And this is how I would market it without paying for ads, which would be like a huge amount of money that I just didn't have to spend. So process videos helped me grow so quickly. And the first summer that I started growing, I think I grew like 80,000 in the summer or 100,000, which is terrifying, by the way. It's much nicer to have a slow burn, but I'm really happy it happened too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
know.
process video. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I used to have a YouTube channel years ago. Don't bother looking for it, anyone. I used to vlog road trips I was doing around Europe in a bus I bought. But I remember like saying to a friend of mine in the earlier days, and I was like, I've only got like 5,000 views. Like, hardly anyone's watched this thing. And he was like, no, imagine 5,000 people every day. I was doing daily video, sitting down and watching that thing. And suddenly it was like, okay, I'm missing a trick. And I sometimes use that example to clients to say, when they said, oh, we've only had like 1,000 people on our website in the last week, I'm like, okay, but 1,000 people dropped in, only 2 purchased. And it's, so it's small numbers at the moment, but those 998, we need to get in their heads. We need to get in their heads quickly. Why didn't
Yeah,
they buy?
because they're
What was it about the
interested.
product? Exactly. What did they learn from the advert they didn't get from the website, or what's not convinced them to purchase, or do they need to come back later? And we need to factor that into our customer journey. But sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, just that imagining that audience, 100,000 people, like as you say, it kind of boomed quickly, but like it's terrifying when you picture like
No,
that's a massive baseball stadium full of people.
yeah, no, the moment when I hit 100,000, I was sitting with my boyfriend and I was just like, this is kind of crazy. He's like, yeah, you realize that is 100,000 actual humans? And I was like, oh no, I don't want to think about that quite yet. but
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
lot.
yeah. And so it's fascinating then that you've used, and I'm more of a cat than a dog person. So as soon as you said
Mhm.
cats, my heart warms up slightly. I love dogs, but cats, I love cats to bits. I can see you looking to see if one's
I
around
know,
there.
I'm surprised there's
Um,
not one in here right now.
but but I think certainly with cat videos, it's something people are really interested in. But how do you go from like here's a cute cat to then like here's a product? Like how did you start to bridge that gap?
Um, Realizing that, I mean, through these cute videos I would do, like I would set up obstacles for them or uh, give them a new toy or a treat. And I realized that once people see my cats enjoying this thing, they are interested in getting it for their cat. And so it's like them seeing what their life or what their cat could experience and enjoy. But I didn't really go that approach with my business because process videos really they add value because you're shown the whole process and you realize how much work is put behind something, but they're also educational, which then draws in other artists or small business owners who are doing something similar. And that is why it's such a valuable video, and that's why it can grow an account so quickly.
Yeah. And I think as well, like something that sprung to mind that I think is really, really key here, and as someone who works in PPC and SEO, my entire career, like nearly 20 years, I I find that one of the toughest things we have really is bringing value to customer or explaining the value of a product. But I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner when we've been looking at this series of episodes we're doing with people like yourself. But that kind of how it's made, the process of creating the product, the behind the scenes, the value of product when you're then holding it in your hand as a customer, it must be like infinitely higher than just that's a nice pair of sunglasses, add to basket, purchase, and they cost me $40. And when they break, and I buy another set, and it's the whole kind of waste culture kicks in. It's so different. It must be so different for the customers when they've actually seen the product, or even if it's not the same one that they've bought that they've seen you make, but just seeing you make something, go, wow, she put so much effort into this item. The value of that item now is like, whether you're charging kind of $20 to $40 or something per product, the value must be astronomical to them of going, yeah, I found this lady online, she makes them herself, they're so cool. It must also lead to a lot of like referrals from existing customers to new customers. They must tell their friends and say, oh, especially when in Halloween, massive it's big in the UK, it's huge in the US and Canada. So like, must be a big thing for you guys where like people see stuff and go, oh, where did you get that from? And next thing you know, you're getting emails from people saying like, oh, my friend had these, I can't see them on the website. Can I get a similar set? Are you making any more?
Yeah. Yeah, it happens a lot because as soon as someone asks, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is where I got it. This is how she did this little part on it." And you can go watch the videos or yeah.
And I'm going to talk a little bit more about kind of, there's much we talk about like the product and the process and social and stuff on this. I want to talk a little bit about how you feel or how you felt through this journey as well, because it must have been so rewarding. Going back to my very first question of like, how do you go from creating stuff and enjoying that as a passion to then making a business out of it? How rewarding is it for you? And I guess I don't know if you run any other businesses, but it must feel so much more rewarding than someone like myself who just went on Alibaba one night, purchased a crate of stuff from China and started trying to sell it.
Oh, it's so rewarding. I mean, I mentioned earlier I started my business as a bath bomb business because I didn't think anyone would be interested in buying handmade jewelry that I made. So the fact that that is what took off and that's what I really enjoyed was just huge to me. And I, because of it, I found a community of people that were like me, both online and locally, that I could help and also receive help from, kind of just like a really good support system. Uh, and also now I can work from home and have time to see my family and friends and make it to like big events that maybe I couldn't before, or I can call out of work when I'm really sick because I'm my own boss. So yeah, it's really rewarding. I work more than I ever have in my life, definitely,
Yep, can
but
relate
it's
to that.
for me. Yeah. So yeah, it's very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. It's so much more rewarding, I think, as well when when you get up in the morning and go, I'm going to start 2 hours early, I'm going to finish late tonight, and I don't know about you, I don't do it regularly. My non-negotiable is 5 p.m. In fact, we're finishing recording this episode at 5 p.m. and I've got about two emails to send quickly, which will take me 2 minutes, and I am out of that door. So I kind of start early, but 5 p.m. I cut off. I have to have an evening. I have to spend time with my wife, or actually it kind of throws me. But at the same time, being an entrepreneur, being your own boss, it's not for everyone. Some people really struggle, I think, with the self-motivation and and actually just you have to be so organized as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through. But yeah, certainly having that free time, but also I think working more, but you know the rewards are coming into your heart and your bank account. And those are the two reasons anybody goes to work every day, is actually the rewarding side of it, but also like there are bills to pay at the same time. So you got 100,000 followers at this point. You mentioned about selling bath bombs first as well. How did things unfold? So that was the first kind of, I think you said 6 to 9 months or whatever. How did things unfold after that? Like, what's the next step in the journey?
Well, the bath bombs didn't do very well, which was funny because I put like 3 months of research into them. I made my own recipe, so I had so many bath bombs that we just are still getting through 2 years later. But so then I launched my website in April, and I was building up to it on social media and making posts to let people know. So I had a little bit of a following, but just like a couple hundred people. And the earrings did better. So then about 6 months in, I had my first video that was jewelry related go viral. The one I had before that was me painting my ceiling. It was like a 5-second video on TikTok. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
why this? Why? So I finally had a jewelry video go viral. And this was probably like very early spring of 2023 then. That would have been a year. I don't know when this was. I think it was about 6 months in. I had my first video go viral, and my website sold out, and I maybe had like 20 things on there. Everything was priced way too low because I didn't understand how I should price things correctly yet. And I made like $300 in a day. And I remember looking at Colin, my boyfriend, and saying, oh, okay, I can do this for a living. Making $300. I'll just live off of that. It'll be fine. But the only reason I was able to leave my job at where I was working was a brewery was because I was able to get into a bunch of markets, local markets, that I knew could support me through the summer. And if I didn't grow more online before winter, then I would go back to working in the brewery. And I just took off online that summer and was able
And
to
never look back.
continue. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, amazing. And it is scary, isn't it? Even if you've got like all the proof in the world, like quitting your day job for the first time, it can be terrifying. But do you ever find that in your warehouse you have dead stock? You can't sell it, no one wants to buy it, and you can't get a refund on it. Or alternatively, you're missing inventory in your warehouse that you need. You've got sales coming in and you're low on stock and you haven't ordered more stock in time. All these things hit profit, and I've been there. I've run my own Shopify store and had exactly that problem. But we've partnered it up with Inventory Planner, who have the most incredible app to help you manage that and forecast exactly what products, what SKUs, even down to what color of product you need to order in advance to make sure stock levels remain consistent throughout. They're also running a 7-day boot camp. And if you want to go and sign up to that, it's 7 emails over 7 days. And it takes the same amount of time as your morning coffee. And in 7 days, like me, you can become an inventory management pro. Both links are in the description. Enjoy. When you say viral on a ceiling painting video, I loved your comment of like, why that video? What, I guess in your experience, I know you kind of 2.5 years into this. In your experience, like what determines, do you think that like to make a video go viral on kind of Instagram, TikTok, where do you think the algorithm goes like, okay, this is some really good content. I'm going to push it to everybody.
Well, sometimes I have no idea, but
Me neither. Yes.
I think most of the time it's when you have something that's really eye-catching in the start. Like sometimes I like to start my process videos just like in the middle of a process, so it just grabs someone's attention, or I put a title on it. I think with the ceiling painting video, it was because I'm, the views from like below and it's looking up at me, and I was just painting it. I had these taped lines on my ceiling because I painted like a bunch of different colors going up onto it. So it was just like a weird thing to see. And it was a short video. I meant to post it as a story on TikTok. And because of that, I think that's why it took off. It was short. It was a weird angle to start from. And people were like, what the heck's going on? And so they stayed. And that just pushed it to a bunch of people.
Yeah, I've certainly been sold to by loads of videos going like, "Hey, you can make your grass look really cool on the edges by trimming them like
Hmm.
this." And like, I need that product, or like, I'm going to try
Hmm.
that with my trimmer, see what results I can get on the grass in the garden. But yeah, I mean, people. I think it's going back to what you said earlier. People are fascinated by how it's made, like where things actually come from. I also love those. I don't know if you've seen them recently, but it just reminded me of the when they put stuff in hydraulic presses. So they put like a load of Skittles in, and then they press them, and all these like this rainbow just pops out of Skittles and stuff.
Yeah, I love
And people are
those.
fascinated, but they always build it up, don't they? It's always like Skittles, hydraulic press, down it goes, and then it cuts. And it's like, hey,
Mhm.
it's such and such laboratories, we're doing this, this, and this, and you're like trying to skim
I would
forward,
be
like,
so mad.
yeah,
No, okay, I don't like that
yeah.
marketing.
No, it works, but it is
It
really
works,
frustrating.
but yes. But I'm like, I want to see that being squished, you know?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So I guess, have you got any advice then to like a bigger brand from where you are? So someone's been running like 10 years, got a whole team of people, big warehouse products. What are some of the things you think that really start to get people to tick? Like, if let's take a more traditional product, like say you were selling, I don't know, lighting for homes, like table lamps, floor lamps, stuff like that. What kind of videos to do with that do you think would really start to get some traction on TikTok versus what a lot of brands do? That's just, here's another video of a product being turned off, turned on, and it's like,
Mhm.
why would I watch that?
I think showing how it can transform a space, especially with lighting. Like I hate ceiling lights. I don't know how you feel about them. My sister loves them. She's crazy. But it is just so uncomfortable to me. So I think like showing a room with just like bad white ceiling lighting and then showing the quick transformation and then being like, this is how we did it with our lighting. Something like that. Or another how it's made video showing how they make the lights because I want to know how that's done. Or just even showing a little behind the scenes of the people that work there because then you feel more connected to this
Mm.
brand as a customer too.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. We always have a lighting client, and I'm instantly now like, okay, I need to send them an email about this because,
Hmm.
yeah, a lot of the videos they put out are exactly what I just described. That are like, here's another light, here's another light, and it just kind of, the video is just like there's a light on a table, and the camera just kind of pans by, and you're
Hmm.
like, what is this? And I know,
Yeah, just showing the
yeah,
product. Yeah, it
yeah, yeah.
doesn't
But
give
I think
quite
the
enough.
transformation as well. I saw a really cool advert about it was for paint to paint walls, similar to your video with the ceiling. But what it was is the guy would like it'd show a room and go like, "Isn't this room beautiful?" And they would choose a really beautiful room, and you look at it and go like, "Yeah, how are you going to make that any better?" And he like clicks his fingers, and all the walls change color, and sometimes even just subtly. But they would also improve the lighting, and the furniture would, the sofa would now be like properly puffed up and stuff, so it looks really comfortable. And they'd do all of that, but they would transform it, and you go, their paint is really nice. And also they'd show stuff like when you're looking at a wall and you're like, oh, you can see a reflection of the light on this wall, and then now it's a nice matte color. I mean, my dad is he's retired now, but he was a painter, so I learned quite a lot about paint over the years. But I think you're right. I think that kind of transformation. I always use the phrase in marketing that features tell, benefits sell. I think so many businesses they just go to town on features and go like, this car has four wheels, it's red, it's got windows, it's got a steering wheel, and you're kind of like, all right, fine. It's got an Apple CarPlay like all cars have now. But actually, what you want to say is like, if you drive this car, you will feel so relaxed around the
Yeah, you
city,
need to
and we'll
relate
advertise it
it,
to people in the city. Yeah, yeah,
make it more personal. Like, how is it going to improve your life or make you
yeah,
happy in your life? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the big channels that you feature on, like social channels that you target? Do you find TikTok is like the thing taking off? Is Instagram still big? Is there anything else you're getting some success with?
Actually, when I first started growing on TikTok, probably because of that painting video. And then shortly after, I started growing on Instagram. And I found when I started growing on Instagram is when I really started getting more sales. But at the time, I didn't really even know how to use Instagram very well. I was mostly on TikTok. And now, today, I'm mostly on Instagram and I don't really know how to use TikTok very well. But as TikTok growth got larger and larger, I started seeing sales just a lot later than I did on Instagram. So I think it's interesting that so many brands want to be on TikTok. And
I was going to say, yeah.
yeah, especially like working with brands and partnerships, they're more interested in TikTok. Um, Whereas I personally feel like Instagram is better, but I think it just depends on who you're trying to target. I still think TikTok has a younger audience, maybe like 15 to 30 is like what's mostly on TikTok, whereas Instagram's a little bit wider. Facebook, I think you definitely get an older crowd, and YouTube, you just get everyone. So I think maybe some brands are just trying to target a younger audience, and that's why they want TikTok. But I definitely focus on Instagram mostly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. I actually saw quite an interesting, almost like kind of age demographic tree. And at the top of it was Facebook with the older audience, then Instagram, then TikTok. And as you say, YouTube was kind of wrapped around everybody. But interestingly, the content within YouTube, it varied a lot. Like certainly once you get above the age of like 55 on this report, it said that it actually switches to much more of a male demographic. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So like I read through some more of the information in this survey they did with YouTube. And the really interesting thing on YouTube was that it got into like lots of how it's made, how they built this new bridge, men having midlife crisis with like their lawns, sports cars. You know, I don't know if you guys call it the same thing over on the other side of the Atlantic, but we call it a midlife crisis.
We
If you
do,
see a
yeah.
guy like mowing his lawn with a pair of small scissors, you know, like cutting every single blade. It's like, oh man, we feel for you. Like, and he's taken up guitar as a new hobby and stuff like this. But yeah, it was really interesting just to see that breakdown. But yeah, exactly the same as you've just said. A lot of brands we talk to are like, we need to be doing stuff on Instagram. And we're like, okay, we'll do some stuff on Instagram. And they're like, no, TikTok's bigger. We need to do stuff on TikTok. And I'm like, that's not really your brand. Like, if I look at all the content that just kind of comes up on TikTok, a lot of it is like funny videos, pranks, products that, as you say, like a 15 to 30-year-old, which I'm above that bracket now, but a 30, sort of 15 to 30-year-olds, yeah, would engage with. It's really interesting to get more traction on Instagram because we have found most brands we talk to are like, yeah, just push anything out on TikTok. And actually, our podcast reels get more traction on TikTok as well than they do on Instagram. Until we changed a couple of things, which I'm not going to go into today, but we changed a couple of things on Instagram, and we're now getting tens of thousands of views per reel, which is kind of cool. But I want to talk about something completely different now. We're talking about the world of social, but I want to, I want to do almost like a complete switch. Obviously, all the stuff we've spoken about is really fun, making behind the scenes videos, creating your product, and that sort of thing. But we did mention earlier, like there are taxes to pay, there's rent to pay, there's accounts to be done, there's customers to reply to, there's refunds to push, there's technical issues on your Shopify store that you got to go and fix. How do you balance your time when it's just you in the business? How do you balance your time to make sure those things get done whilst also making sure you do the fun, creative stuff that does actually bring in the sales in the first place?
Not very well. I'm not very good at
Okay.
it, but I will tell you what
Yeah.
I have figured out.
Yeah.
And I also actually now, as of this year, my boyfriend officially is an owner in my business as well.
Nice. Yeah.
So he
Congratulations.
takes care of, yeah, it's really nice. So he does a lot of assembling of the pieces that I make, and he also does all the shipping. So I'll write the thank you notes, and then he takes it over from there, packs everything up, and ships it out. And then I also have a friend, Caitlin, who deals with a lot of or handles a lot of admin work for me. So replying to certain emails, DMs, comments, anything that she can answer. And then she lets me know what I need to check out. So in the morning, I always start my morning going on my computer. I look to see if she's left me any notes and then go from there, check my email, check comments, any of that. But it's really easy to get sucked into it and start on all these other projects on your computer. So I like to at least have an hour set for the day. And then if I have a lot more computer work, I'll try to plan that all into a different day so I can just be focused on it, like especially with editing videos too. So I can just sit down and do that and just like let my eyeballs fry out of my brain. Uh,
Yeah.
and then I find with creating things, it's so much easier to set aside like a whole day or the rest of a day after your computer work to just really focus on that project, because otherwise you're going to keep getting pulled out of it and then you can't get into a really good creative flow. You say you end your days at like 5 p.m.
5 o'clock, I'm gone.
That
Yeah,
is
that's it.
so
Yeah.
smart. And that is really kind of where I fail. And I find myself reaching burnout after like a month or two over and over again. And I feel like I learn from it every time. I learn how to make it a little easier and actually have time for myself and days off and nights off. But that is a huge thing. That is so smart that you're doing that. And I think you become more
Yeah,
productive and
that's
creative
it. I've
when you
got a
give yourself
deadline.
that time. Yeah.
Yeah, if I don't get it done by 5, it's not getting done today. And I tell you, one of the biggest things I've learned about my personality as well, and my point here really is it's the same for you and all of you guys listening at home. You need to work to your strengths, and everybody says that, and it doesn't make any sense until you have a few burnouts and failures and stuff, I'm afraid. But one of my biggest fears is letting people down. So if I don't get that email sent, I don't have that conversation, I don't complete that document, I don't write that marketing strategy, I don't make that sales call that I need to make to a new client. Like if I don't do that, I tell myself I'm going to let someone down here. Someone's not going to be happy with me. And that's the kind of thing that does keep me awake at night. So yeah, for anyone that has sent any hate mail into the podcast, like it really does hurt. I'm joking. We've had no hate mail in years. Like you
Oh,
guys are actually
good.
absolutely
That
lovely.
is an interesting thing,
But
though. Like,
yeah,
people don't when there's such a disconnect sometimes, and I think that's also why it's a good thing to create a stronger connection with your customers or followers, your audience, whatever. Because I think people don't realize there's an actual human behind some of these
yeah.
things. Mm.
Yeah. And whenever I'm like talking to customer service these days, I do always try and almost like when I kind of give the big like sucker punch, like this is my big issue. I always try and lead with a statement like, and whoever I'm talking to, I use their name, even just like on live chat. I'll say, let Sam, I'm sorry. Like, I know it's not your fault personally, but I am having all of these issues and I'm really, really unhappy about it. So at least Sam doesn't feel like I'm attacking them. They're like, yeah, I get that you've had these issues. I'm here to help. And I'll try and finish those messages as well with like, so I'd appreciate your help because the amount of brands I've worked with and also working here as well, we have had some people over the years and there'll be more in the future, I'm sure, who they just lay in so hard at you and you're like, I've personally put loads of time into this. And I think sometimes, and I think a really good question to ask you as someone who actually makes your product as well is like, I say to my team a lot, like focus on the fact that you work for our clients. Like try not to be like take pride in what you do, but don't get too attached and too protective. Because if the client says like, I see what you've done, but it needs to be blue, not red, and you love red, it's like, but it's not for you, it's for the client. We work for them. And same with you and your customer. So you must have had to like consider that over the last couple of years as well, of just like making sure to go like it's for them, not me. So even if I don't love it, it's fine. Like I'm not going to get protective. I'm not going to get upset about it. But yeah, it's not easy, especially in a creative space where it's like you do something you think's beautiful and someone's like, I don't like it, and you're like, oh come on, like
Yeah.
I put my heart in that.
There's definitely, when it comes to the things that I'm making that are handmade, like if I post a video, I'll stop looking at the comments if it reaches a million views. I don't want to see what anybody's saying because I know that sometimes I
That's
can't take
really
it.
interesting. Yeah.
But I also worked in customer service for 9 years, so I'm kind of
So you've
ready
got
for most
thick
things
skin.
too. Yes.
Yeah.
But being empathetic and blunt with someone, I think is really good. Like what you're saying, when you send emails and you're like, I understand where you're coming from. Here's how I feel. Um, but with the handmade creations, I I really have a lot of creative freedom over them. I'd say with the partnerships I do, I actually recently, one of the ones I did, I got feedback from them and they basically were like, you are just slurring your words. We don't like the voiceover, completely redo it. And then they listed out timestamps of everything they wanted changed. And and at first I was like, oh, that's a little harsh. And I thought, oh, actually, this is really nice. It's so well organized. I know exactly what I need to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, they were just like very to the point, like no coating, no frosting on it or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've definitely, certainly with some of the younger people that we've like hired and younger in experience, might I add, not in age. Like the whole kind of like age stereotype, I've had to like burn and throw out the window. Like I just,
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you started when you were 17, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a long
So,
time
and
ago.
I was managing when I was 19 in restaurants and fine dining
Yeah,
restaurants. Like yeah,
yeah,
I know what you mean.
absolutely. And yeah, and some of I mean, just the other side of this wall, I say sometimes every episode, man, just the other side of this wall to my team. Some of the younger guys on my team are absolutely incredible. If anyone missed an episode, by the way, check out. She was wearing one of these bright pink Winning with Shopify t-shirts 3 weeks ago. My colleague Liv, running around the e-commerce expo here in London. It's a mile and a half long, and it's just got e-commerce stuff going on everywhere you look. And she was running around interviewing people, and she's never done anything like that before. Absolutely smashed it. It's the first episode since I think 2020 that I've not been in. I
Was that
even
your
recorded
last
an intro,
episode?
and Yeah, that was my first episode I did. I think it's going to be 3 weeks before this one, guys. So go back a
Oh,
few weeks.
okay.
But yeah, my colleague Liv never done anything like that before. Running around, absolutely incredible. And we actually ran out of time on what we posted to put all of the interviews that she did in. We just chose the best ones. But yeah, again, it's like exactly the same as you when you were 19. It's like empowering people to do the right thing at the right time. But I do think, I mean, bringing it back to your business, I do think that like that personal touch, it does protect you in a way. There are going to be those times though where someone's just like, I don't care, I'm angry, and it's not your fault, but it's become your problem. I'm going to make it your problem, and you just got to kind of take a deep breath and almost. Someone said to me a while ago, and it was specifically actually about we're having a bit of an issue with a client, and they started to get quite aggressive and personal towards us. We were like, we're just trying to help you here, like, is this really how you're going to talk to people? And like your team are angry with you, and we're angry with you. Like, you should be fired, but you own the business, so we can't get rid of you. But I think at that point, someone said to me like, it's only people that are currently hurting that will hurt others. And when you remember that, you're like, okay, I've not hurt them here. If I have, I need to sort that out. And but I do think is wherever we work in marketing, we're gonna get those comments on social, especially. It's a really public forum. We're gonna get those customer service emails, and I think sometimes you just got to kind of go for a quick walk, take a deep breath, and go, it's not
Yeah,
me. And actually, if the world is that way, I'm going to try and change it. That's what I'm going to do.
taking a moment to really like think and not just react emotionally is so big.
Mm.
Um,
We've all
which
written a
is,
message and deleted it
yeah,
before we sent it.
I definitely said some things when I was managing in restaurants um, that I shouldn't have, but it got to the point where I realized that just talk to people like they're human and explain what's going on to them. And most of the time, they're incredibly understanding,
Mm.
even
Absolutely,
if they
absolutely.
come at you aggressively at first.
Yeah. One of the most incredible things a friend of mine said to me years ago, and I've adopted this actually in both client relations and certainly looking at like customer service, and we've had clients in the past like where we've had to deal with bad press. Like you search their brand name and the first thing up on Google is a news article that's really bad, and it's like, you do PPC and SEO, that's Google, like fix this. And actually, the thing to ask the person that's got an issue or they're complaining about something is just to say, look, what do you want in this? And ask them that question, because it completely stops them and goes, all right, these people are actually trying to like solve something for me here. What do I want? Well, I want an apology or I want a refund or whatever. It's like, cool, we can organize that for you. And I'm sorry for what you've been through. And like the whole situation suddenly diffused. There is the odd person that's not reasonable, but I do think like certainly in the world of social media, we've got to be ready for this. And I think so many brands like, you get the owner or the CEO freaking out, going like, "We've launched a TikTok video like you said we should," and someone said, "I don't get it. They don't get it. Like it's a whole waste of time." And stuff. It's like, no, it's one person. It's been a million views. There's one
Also,
person.
take that comment and make a video off of it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't get it. Right. No one. Some people didn't get our last video, so here's
Mhm.
why you should get it. And yeah. And then people are gonna go, "Oh, I want to go watch the last video," and suddenly they've watched two, and you got 2 views instead of one. So yeah, it's a smart idea. I like that. I like that a lot. But look, coming into land. Yeah. Final question from me is, where are you planning to take things? Like looking forward, what are you excited about? What are you like? This is going to be a challenge. What is it that you're aiming for in the kind of short to medium term from today?
Right now, I'm making anywhere from 100 to 300 handmade pieces a month, which is not sustainable physically. I even had a physical therapist tell me, if you keep going like this, you will have carpal tunnel in your wrists and your hands. And I have had a lot of pain in my hands. So, really, what I want to do is reduce how many things I'm making, maybe just do like one or two designs, and then maybe one larger one of a kind piece that I'm working on throughout the whole month. And then instead moving towards more partnerships and more online free resources for other artists or small businesses, sharing my experience or giving them a tutorial on how to use this art medium that will then be sponsored by a different brand and paid for by that brand to supplement my income. So mostly I want to go towards a more educational route and be making more content, video content online for people, but still making things just a lot less
I
because
love
I'm
that.
doing
And
way too much right now.
yeah, a friend of mine actually, his mum has been working in silver work all of her life, and she has carpal tunnel, which is really painful. And it's really sad because she like sees the things she used to make and go, I just can't make stuff anymore. Or if I do, it takes me like a month to do one thing, which used to take me a few hours. So I completely hear that. And I think it's, for you, it's one specific physical challenge. But I think for everyone listening, there will be limitations on you. And it's probably one of the hardest lessons that I learned hiring people, was how to actually manage and delegate and inspire and motivate and all the other things that come with leadership and management. And I'm no expert whatsoever. My team will vouch for that as well. But yeah, I'm no expert at it. But I think it's exactly what you're describing. Is like, how do you how do you grow kind of what you're doing really well? And I think certainly your friend Caitlin and also your boyfriend as well, all kind of helping out and getting involved is a step towards that. But then it's almost just like that physical issues now come out because that's where you're spending a majority of your time. So all businesses have that. I mean, would you ever look at like doing more factory production or hiring people to produce, or do you think actually you want to, as you say, you're going to just kind of stick to that, let's go a bit more limited edition and do more kind of online content and create earning from that?
Yeah, I don't think what I make would feel nearly as special if I had other people making it. So I would rather keep it to me making these handmade pieces. And maybe if I do more one-of-a-kind things, I could take photos of them and sell them as prints, or do more illustrations, move more into that, because I haven't drawn in so long. I do every now and then, but I want to be the one who is making the products that I'm selling. So, but I've always loved making videos so much, and I really enjoy teaching. Like, I wanted to be an art teacher when I was a kid. I taught one semester of art and it basically broke my heart. So I was like, okay, so we're going to move this to online somehow.
Yeah.
So that's
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, look, Brianca, I really appreciate your time. It's been so good to have you on. If people want to check out your all the stuff you make, check out the business, find you on social, like what are your handles, web address, like how can people get in touch?
My handles on all social media are Bellis Botanicals, Bellis Botanicals, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I'm just starting to post more long form videos on YouTube. It's really hard to plan in the editing time. And then my website is just bellisbotanicals.com. And I have been having monthly collection drops. It'll change to more every 2 to 3 months soon.
Amazing. So yeah, if you want to get her products, then definitely go and get in there soon, because as you say, you're going to be making a little bit less. So yeah, amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. It's been so good to have you on, and appreciate you sacrificing an hour to come and chat.
Yes, it's been great. Thank you.
Amazing. And for everybody listening at home, we will be back again next Friday. If you haven't already, check out the Growth Hub, hit subscribe, leave us a review. And if you want to ask any questions as well of any of our future guests coming up or any topics you want us to cover, go to wwspodcast.com. That's WWS for Winning with Shopify, podcast.com. Send us a message or fill out one of the forms on the website as well. And we'll come back to you as soon as we possibly can. But thanks for tuning in. Back again next week. Do you want to up your influencer marketing game? Do you want to meet more influencers, have a better working relationship with influencers? You might even be struggling to talk to them in the first place, or even get them to talk about your product and post to their audiences. Well, at Winning with Shopify, we have teamed up with Affluencer, which is an app you can install on Shopify, and it comes with a 30-day trial. And even in those first 30 days, you can meet a load of influencers and start promoting your product. So there's no excuse. Go and install the app, start the 30-day trial, and give it a go yourself and see how you get on.